behind me on these shelves, I have the books that I'm interested in reading in September, October, November. It's kind of my spooky season. I think that kind of counts for a lot of people. I'm just gonna show you the books on my shelves and what I'm planning to maybe do this fall. Just in case it's not alphabetized, just don't pay attention. I really don't care. First book, Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Fledgling lawyer Jonathan Harker treks to the Carpathian Mountains to see his client, the elderly and gaunt Count Dracula. The Count is fascinated by Harker's life in London. It soon becomes clear that Count Dracula has his own plans for the teeming city. Part gothic novel and part modern horror story, Dracula is the vampire saga that started it all. This might be one where I end up donating it. That's a tough way to start it because it's like 400 pages, but I also just really loved this edition. It's beautiful. After that is Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt. I read Brainworms with Sage by this author, and holy shit, Brainworms was just so good. This one I believe is a haunted house story where the house is a character. I believe that's how Sage talked about it years ago. So it's a dark, unflinching haunted house novel that takes the readers from the well of the literary Gothic up through Brighton's queer scene and out into the heart of modern day trans experience. 3 years ago, Alice spent one night in an abandoned house with her friends Isla and Hannah. Since then, things have not been going well. Alice is living a haunted existence, selling videos herself, cleaning for money, going to parties she hates, drinking herself to sleep. She hasn't spoken to Isla since they went into the house. She hasn't seen Hannah either. Memories of that night torment her mind and her flesh when Isla asks her to return to the house, past the keep out sign, over the sick earth where teenagers dare each other to venture. She knows she must go. Together, Alice and Isla must face the horrifying occurrences that happen there, must pull themselves apart from the inside out, put their differences aside, and try to rescue Hannah, who the house has chosen to make its own. Next one is The Marigold by Andrew F. Sullivan. This sounds like it's kind of like a moldy, creepy type hotel book. It says, in a dystopian near future Toronto, the Marigold, a gleaming condo tower, sits a half In a dystopian near future Toronto, the Marigold, a gleaming condo tower, sits a half. This sentence is poorly written. Can I just say that? In a dystopian near future Toronto, the Marigold, a gleaming condo tower, sits a half-empty promise. There's a word missing in there somewhere. A stack of scuffed rental suites and undelivered amenities that crumbles around its residents as a mysterious sludge spreads slowly through it, rotting the buildings from within. While most surrender to the mold, too worn down to fight its hold in the city, some rise against it but is Toronto already too far gone? Holy shit. Oh my god. Okay, anyways, I am very excited about it, but I'm a little concerned that the synopsis was like so brief that they just took out words to save space. That pissed me off. Next we have Schrader's Chord by Scott Leeds. This I've put off for a long time because it has to do with music very clearly. I think it's like a haunted record. Says, I told you they were real. After his estranged father's mysterious death, Charlie Remick returns to Seattle to help with the funeral. There he discovers his father left 2 parting gifts: the keys to the family record store and a strange black case containing 4 antique records that, according to legend, can open a gate to the land of the dead. When Charlie, his sister, and their 2 friends play the records, they unwittingly open a floodgate of unspeakable horror. As the darkness descends, they are stalked by a relentless, malevolent force and see the dead everywhere they turn. And that's one of the ones where I'm not going to read the full synopsis because it already seems like it's spoiling things. I'm curious. I might look into like the audiobook of this to see if there are any musical elements, because I don't know. It just sounds like a haunted, like spooky, culty maybe book. Now we are on to one that I've started and read a considerable amount previously. This is Man-Made Monsters, and it's a collection of stories by Andrea L. Rogers. It's this like epic, like, let me see if I can find the picture. There's a family tree, like a genealogy, and you actually see stories of a lot of the people in here, and it's all like very referential to itself. So there's the Wilson family tree and the Stone family tree. Also, I love these like black pages in here. Something about it is just so gorgeous. It says, making her YA debut, Cherokee writer Andrea L. Rogers takes her place as one of the most striking voices of the horror renaissance. Horror fans will get their thrills in this collection where werewolves to vampires to zombies, all the time-worn horror baddies are here. But so are predators of a distinctly American variety, the horrors of empire, the intimate partner violence of dispossession. And so too the monsters of Rogers' imagination. They draw upon long-told Cherokee stories of deer women, fantastical sea creatures, and more. Following one extended Cherokee family across the centuries, from the tribe's homelands in Georgia to World War I, the Vietnam War, our own present, and well into the future, each story delivers a slice of a particular time period that will leave readers longing for more. Alongside each story, Cherokee artist and language technologist Jeff Edwards delivers haunting illustrations that incorporate the Cherokee syllabary. I loved this book, and I don't quite, like, it didn't feel like YA to me, which is fine because I a lot of times don't like YA horror or anything like that, but I became so engulfed with this book a few years ago, and I remember vividly like sitting at, I think I was getting my car worked on, and I was there for like 4 hours, and I read so much of this book, and then one day I just put it down, and like my brain couldn't comprehend being in the same headspace again. I don't know. I do also, yes, I remember having a beautiful naked book. I thought this was just really cool. I hadn't honestly heard anything about it, but it's Stephen Graham Jones, and it's actually 2 books. It's one of those like flip it around and it's a different book thing. The first one is The Killer on the Road. It says 18-year-old Harper has decided to run away from home after having another blowout argument with her mother. However, her 2 best friends, little sister and ex-boyfriend, all stop her from hitchhiking her way up Route 80 in Wyoming by joining her on an intervention disguised as a road trip. What they don't realize is that Harper has been marked by a very unique serial killer who's been trawling the highway for the past 3 years, and now the killer is after all of them in this fast-paced and deadly chase where the interstate becomes a graveyard. The other one is called The Babysitter Lives. It says, when high school senior Charlotte agrees to babysit the Wilbanks twins, she plans to put the 6-year-olds to bed early and spend a quiet night studying. The SATs are tomorrow, and checking the Native American Alaskan Native box on all the forms won't help if she chokes on test day. But tomorrow is also Halloween, and the twins are eager to show off their costumes. The house is filled with mysterious noises and secrets that only the twins understand. Echoes of horror that Charlotte gradually realizes took place 11 years ago. Soon Charlotte has to admit that every babysitter's worst nightmare has come true. They're not alone in the house. Stephen Graham Jones, very prolific author at this point. I think I've had some hits and misses with him. Overall, though, I really love his writing style. I think it's just like the story content that I sometimes don't love. I think both of these are pretty straightforward, and I'm excited to see what they look like. I also just really love, I love this. Next one is one that I actually just read another book by pretty recently. So I read Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano and loved it. Like, the pacing was a little slow, but I felt like I was constantly curious to like just keep reading and getting back into the story. So I picked up their new book right after it came out, and it's 13 Months Haunted. I believe this is supposed to be touted like a millennial. Let me not speculate. Let me just read the synopsis because I truly haven't read the synopsis. I love that there's a CD on the cover. Click the link if you dare. Librarian Piper Lowry can tell right away there's something strange about the new girl in 8th grade. Even though all the other kids are obsessed with the latest Y2K tech, AOL, Napster, blogs, Avery Wallace won't touch a computer ever. And stranger still, her mother comes to school with her every day, sitting next to her in class. Seeing that Avery's odd behavior is beginning to make her an outcast, Piper decides to befriend her. She wants to support the lonely teen, but it can't hurt to satisfy her own curiosity while she's at it, right? What's up with the rumors that Avery's mother is a witch? And did her family really used to live in a haunted house? But Piper quickly realizes that this might just be the worst decision she's ever made, because there's something dark inside Avery Wallace and it's spreading. Okay, cool. So it is Y2K. I didn't want to say 90s, 2000s, whatever. So it is more like Y2K time period, and at least I think. I love that because the other book, Dead 11, was set in a very isolated town where everyone was stuck in the 80s in a way, and I love that. It was a little slow paced, and I'm kind of expecting that from this book as well, but there was enough payoff like pretty consistently that I was just like pulled along all the time. Next is Scapegracers. This is by Hannah Abigail Clark, and this is one that Michelle actually got me, I think last Christmas. I feel bad. And I believe this is a YA witch kind of book, kind of like The Craft. Skulking near the bottom of West High's social pyramid, Sideways Pike lurks under the bleachers doing, oh, the lighting is weird, doing magic tricks for bottles of Coke. As a witch, lesbian, and lifelong outsider, she's had a hard time making friends. But when the 3 most popular girls pay her $40 to cast a spell at her Halloween party, Sideways gets swept into a new clique. The unholy trinity are dangerous angels, sugar-coated rattlesnakes, and now, unbelievably, Sideways' best friends. Together, the 4 bond to form a ferocious and powerful coven. They plan parties, cast curses on dude bros, try to find Sideways a girlfriend, and elude the fundamentalist witchfinders hell-bent on stealing their magic. But for Sideways, the hardest part is the whole having friends thing. Who knew that balancing human interaction with supernatural peril could be so complicated? Rich with the urgency of feral youth, The Scapegracers is an atmospheric, voice-driven novel of the occult that explores magic, growing up, and complex female friendships with all the rage of a teenage girl. That felt like a movie synopsis. Next is technically nonfiction, I think we're calling this. This is Uncanny, The Origins of Fear. It is a memoir by Junji Ito. And, look at that. It's disgusting. We have a semi-illustrated memoir. There are pictures in here, and I started reading this, but I felt like I just wasn't that interested at the time. Why are we drawn to fear? Horror manga legend Junji Ito has fascinated the world with his beautiful and strange tales, from his debut story Tomi to Uzumaki Gyo and many other famous works. In his professional memoir and horror manga analysis, he tells all and digs into dark recesses, reflections on influences from his childhood, thoughts on manga, next level idea generation techniques, character design, craftsmanship, and more. Full of never before told insider anecdotes and behind the scenes stories, this is a must-have book for fans who want to immerse themselves completely in the world of Junji Ito, which is exactly what I want to do and what I am. Oh, look at that effect. Holy shit. The light is really doing favors. Next, we get into a few collections of stories, story collections, if you will. We have episode 13 by Craig DeLuey, from the macabre mind of Bram Stoker award-nominated author Craig DeLuey. Episode 13 brings a terrifying twist to the found footage genre when a reality TV show's crew find themselves trapped in a nightmare of their own creation. So, right off, found footage, if you're not aware, is one of my favorite horror genres, either in movie or book. Fade to Black is the newest hit ghost hunting reality TV show. Led by husband and wife team Matt and Claire Kirkland, it features a dedicated crew of ghost hunting experts. Episode 13 takes them to every ghost hunter's holy grail, the Paranormal Research Foundation. This crumbling, derelict mansion holds secrets and clues about bizarre experiments that took place there in the 1970s. It's also undoubtedly haunted, and Matt hopes to use scientific technique and high-tech gear to prove it. But as the house begins to slowly reveal itself to the crew, proof of an afterlife might not be everything Matt dreamed of. Am I wrong? This might not be a short story collection. It's not. Oh boy, we have a much better thing. I, for some reason, thought this was like a collection of 13 stories based around these characters, but the fact that it's just a story bodes much better, because short story collections by different authors, like a collection of stories by different authors. What? I just said the same thing twice. I feel like they're not as good, in my opinion. I feel like I want to get comfortable with one author's writing style, and then when you bring in like a new author every other sentence, it feels like it doesn't always, I feel like it's very rarely cohesive, in my personal opinion. This is Never Whistle at Night, edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. It's an anthology of indigenous dark fiction. Technically horror, I believe. And I'm gonna try to read this for a book club this fall. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to want to go, because that means being social and being out in the world. A bold, clever, and sublimely sinister collection that dares to ask the questions, are you ready to be unsettled? Many indigenous people believe that one should never whistle at night. It can cause evil spirits to appear and even follow you home. Those wholly original and shiver-inducing tales introduce readers to ghosts, curses, hauntings, monstrous creatures, complex family legacies, desperate deeds, and chilling acts of revenge. Introduced and contextualized by best-selling author Stephen Graham Jones, these stories are a celebration of indigenous people's survival and imagination, and a glorious reveling in all the things an ill-advised whistle might summon. I also just love the fucking cover art. Like, that's gorgeous. Something that I tried to read years ago. Honestly, I probably just took it out of the library. I probably didn't read it. This is A People's History of the Vampire Uprising by Raymond A. Villarreal. This panoramic story begins with one small mystery. The body of a young woman disappears from a morgue in a small Arizona border town. The CDC investigator who is called in confronts evidence of an inexplicable new disease, even as more bodies vanish. Soon as the U.S. government, as well as scientists, lawmakers, and religious leaders, must come to terms with what they're too late to stop, an epidemic of vampirism that will sweep the world. These changed people, or the Gloamings, will, with heightened strength and beauty and a steady diet of fresh blood, rapidly rise to prominence. People willingly risk death to be recreated. As new Gloaming communities spring up, society becomes divided, and the Gloamings come under threat from a secret terrorist organization. When a charismatic and wealthy businessman, recently turned, runs for political office, all hell breaks loose. It is part social political satire, part international mystery. It is an exhilarating genre-bending novel, as addictive as the power it describes. Moving along to some more queer stuff, we have Hell Followed Us by Andrew Joseph White. I truly was more captivated by this cover than I was anything else, and then when reading the synopsis, it drew me in further. It says, prepare to die. His kingdom is near. 16-year-old trans boy Benji is on the run from the cult that raised him, the fundamentalist sect that unleashed Armageddon and decimated the world's population. Desperately, he searches for a place where the cult can't get their hands on him, or more importantly, on the bioweapon they infected him with. But when cornered by monsters born from the destruction, Benji is rescued by a group of teens from the local Akason LGBTQ plus center, affectionately known as the ALC. The ALC's leader, Nick, is gorgeous, autistic, and a deadly shot, and he knows Benji's darkest secret. The cult's bioweapon is mutating him into a monster, deadly enough to wipe humanity from the earth once and for all. Still, Nick offers Benji shelter among his ragtag group of queer teens, as long as Benji can control the monster and use its power to defend the ALC. Eager to belong, Benji accepts Nick's terms until he discovers, I'm not going to read that sentence, because that seems like a spoiler. So, I will say that those are my top priority books. I feel like those are the ones I am 100% so fucking excited for. We do have more, so let's continue. Falling into a category of books that I really wanted to be excited for and still kind of am, but they let me down upon first attempt, is Out There Screaming. It's an anthology of new black horror, and it was edited by Jordan Peele. I read, I think, the first 2 stories, or maybe it was the first story, and was disappointed. I put it down, and we're gonna try to pick it up again because it just doesn't make sense. There's gotta be stuff in here. But again, that's my peril of trying to read short story collections with multiple authors. It just doesn't seem to work out for some reason. It says, the visionary writer and director of Get Out, Us, and Nope curates this groundbreaking anthology of all new stories of black horror, exploring not only the terrors of the supernatural, but the chilling reality of injustice that haunts our nation. A cop begins seeing huge blinking eyes where the headlights of cars should be that tell him who to pull over. That one. That's the one that I fucking hated. I hated that story. 2 freedom riders take a bus ride that leaves them stranded on a lonely road in Alabama where several unsettling somethings await them. A girl dives into the depths of the earth in search of the demon that killed her parents. These are just a few of the worlds of Out There Screaming, Jordan Peele's anthology of all new horror stories written by black authors. Another book by, it's a repeat author. We have Andrew Joseph White's Compound Fracture, again with the amazing artwork. It is the same artist, good for them, holy crap. Welcome to Twist Creek County. On the night Miles Abernathy, 16-year-old socialist and proud West Virginian, comes out as trans to his parents, he sneaks off to a party, carrying evidence that may finally turn the tide of the blood feud plaguing Twist Creek. Photos that prove the county sheriff Davies was responsible for the so-called accident that injured his dad, killed others, and crushed their grassroots efforts to unseat him. The feud began 100 years ago when Miles's great-great-grandfather, St. Abernathy, incited a miners' rebellion that ended with a public execution at the hands of law enforcement. Now Miles becomes the feud's latest victim as the sheriff's son, and his friends sniff out the evidence, following him through the woods and beat him nearly to death. In the hospital, the ghost of a soot-covered man hovers over Miles's bedside, while Sheriff Davies threatens Miles into silence. But when Miles... I'm not going to continue. That seems like a spoiler. Anyways, something happens. An inciting incident incites, you know? These like bleeding... Come on, there we go. These like bleeding antlers. I have Isolation, the horror anthology. I actually picked this up and read, I think like 100 pages or so last fall. Jose and I went on a lovely cabin trip to this place called Huttopia up in Maine. And it's a little bit like glamping. You have electricity and a bathroom and a shower and a whole ass kitchen, but you're in the middle of the woods, and it's just gorgeous. And I read an isolation type horror book. It says, Lost in the Wilderness or Alone in the Dark, isolation remains one of our deepest held fears. This horror anthology from Shirley Jackson and British Fantasy Award finalist Dan Coxon calls on leading horror writers to confront the dark moments, the challenges that we must face alone, survivors in a world gone silent, the outcast shunned by society, the quiet voice trapped in the crowd, the lonely and forgotten screaming into the abyss. Experience the chilling terrors of isolation. And I originally picked it up because it has a story by Paul Tremblay. I don't even remember if I got to his story. No, I don't think I did. But there's other ones. So for me personally, there's M.R. Carey, Laird Barron, Tim Levin, like Lisa Tuttle. There's a lot of well-known authors in here. And I read, again, like 100 pages. And one of the stories in here I still think about to this day. So I'm very excited to actually continue and read more, because this was a good collection. I just think that, again, kind of like Man-Made Monsters, very different vibe of setting where I was, but for some reason my brain is like, you're never gonna be at Huttopia reading this book again. But I need to get the fuck over that because it was a good book. Okay, I'll actually stop there because looking at the other books, the rest of them are kind of either like creepy mystery or like thriller type books, which I don't consider horror. They're not really strictly horror. So while I do want to read them, they're not the priority for this video or for my fall reading. So that is it. There are too many books, and thank you if you sat this long through all the synopses. I am very excited to read them and actually enjoy the fall books that I kind of like hold on to and wait to read. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.